Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Live Communication.
Let your voice be heard.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. Catherine Tyson Pinales. I'm sitting in for Sterling this afternoon. Want to welcome you to the show. Of course, I want to hear what's on your mind, so you can always call at 1-800-534-8255 or send us an email at talktoday@candw.ky. Well, in the studio joining me first up right away, it's always wonderful to have guests because then I don't have to sit and talk to myself, which I do very well. We know that. Susan's over there, hanging tough. You can't see her, but she's doing a lot of great stuff over there, and it's nice to be on this side. I want to introduce you to my guest this afternoon. First up, I have Miss Suzette Stewart, who's actually the vocational program coordinator for the Sunrise Adult Training Center. Good afternoon, Suzette.
Good afternoon.
And you're here in that capacity because
Yes.
I know you in a lot of other capacities.
Yes, I'm here in that capacity.
You have different hats.
Yes.
As we do in Cayman. For sure. Welcome to the show. Also, Mr. Prentice Panton from Reflections. Welcome, Mr. Prentice.
Yes, hi everyone. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us. You also, I see you doing a lot of different things and hear your name.
Yeah, everything from chief bottle washer to to CEO.
Absolutely. And always doing wonderful things. Now, today we're talking about actually the disabled in our community. We know that the government has been working on the national disability, the Cayman Islands disability policy.
Correct.
And so you work in that arena.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, well, there's been committees and subcommittees working on this policy. Started a few years ago, and so they've drafted the Cayman Islands Disability Policy, which has a number of goals that have been clearly set out. It was put out for public consultation just a few weeks ago. A number of public meetings were held. Members of the public and community were certainly invited to come to these meetings just to hear more about the disability policy and to offer their feedback. This is a very, very important turning point, I think, in our history, where we are focusing a lot more on the disabled persons in our community.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something that obviously it's a part of all of us, and it's something that we need to embrace to ensure that all citizens are just cared for and are that we're being fair to, correct?
Right. Yes,
yeah?
correct.
Now, Mr. Prentice, you're joining us today because you actually have a disabled person working for you, yes?
Yes, we have a young man that's been working with us for actually around 4 years now. He's turned out to be a real pleasure to work with. He's a very outgoing young chap, and he has performed his job very well. He actually has fewer sick days than most of my regular staff. He always has a really positive attitude and everything that he does, willing to do anything we pretty much ask him to do. So it's definitely been a rewarding situation for us, and I can see that it has been for him as well.
Absolutely. Sounds like he can teach some people some things. Yeah. So we can learn from each other, period, right? Now, Suzette, I know that the work that you do every day, you work with persons with disabilities, and that ranges from one end to the next.
Yes,
correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And sometimes disabilities are not as obvious.
That's very true.
So we can't pigeonhole people
Right.
anymore. Just talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, disabilities can be whether acquired, or you can be born with it. And there are quite a range of disabilities. It can either be physical disability, it can be something relating to mental health issues, it can be something with dealing with mobility issues or cognitive or intellectual. So there are quite a range of disabilities. The key thing to notice or to think about here is that persons with disabilities have dreams and aspirations and objectives and plans in much the same way that the rest of the non-disabled persons do. And so the extent of their disabilities, some may have limited mobility, etc. But regardless of their extent, how significant their disability is, they want to do something productive. They want to feel included. They value themselves. And what they want and what we want is for the community to value them as well. And one of those ways is through employment. So the disability policy talks about and relates to, creating equal employment opportunities, opportunities for education, for healthcare, etc. And so in my role at Sunrise, I'm primarily responsible for overseeing the training and job preparation of these clients with disabilities. Once we've done that training, then we're certainly assisting them with in their searching for jobs, placing them, and then even continuing to support them after they've been placed. So that's what we call supported employment.
Right.
Yes. So the persons with disabilities, if you talk to them, they want the same things. They want to work. They
Right.
really, really want to work. They want an opportunity to show everyone else that they can do things. It's not about what they can't do. It's about what they can do.
Absolutely.
So accommodations may have to be made for them. But in much the same way, in a work environment where the employer wants their employees to be equipped with the right tools to be able to do their job efficiently and in a very productive way. It's the same way persons with disabilities, accommodations can be made for them so that they can be equally productive.
Right.
And as Prentice said, that young man who has been working with him, he is enthusiastic. He works hard. He takes very few sick days, and that's one of the benefits of employing someone with a disability. You may find that they work harder than many of the other persons in your organization. It's not that they're trying to prove anything to themselves. They just want to be accepted for who they are and for all that they're capable of doing.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and he is a very outgoing young guy. A lot of customers come in, look forward to seeing him in the store. He's very well known. He's a very talented young artist as well. He does a lot of sketches and stuff like that. He brings them in. He did some portraits of myself, my wife, and you can see he really tries to go that extra mile. He cooks for us every once in a while, and he definitely has a genuine concern in a sense for the business. Anything that's going on that he can see or point out to us is more than willing and anxious to actually come over and speak to you. And really that's all you have to, in a sense, to do is set up the situation and what it is that you want him to do, the particular task,
Right.
in a sense, just narrow it down to this is what I want to do right now, and he is more than capable of going off and doing it.
Right.
And so just like I said, any other staff, we would have to do the same thing. We have to provide training. We have to, and
Right.
in a sense, once we have got a good understanding of what his capabilities is, what issues were, then it was definitely has been a pleasure for us to work with him and really no in a sense liabilities or issues with having him on board, and it's a pleasure. And one of the things that he found is a sense of honesty.
Right.
And stuff like that. There was a pair of shoes that was in the garbage to be thrown out. Now, it could have been a genuine mistake, or it could have been, which we have from time to time, employee theft. And he found it out, and right away he ran to the office and said, sir, this is what I found. And those type of things, like I said, looking out for the company's best interest is something that he has proven, because he does value his job. You can see, and it's not only that, I think that, like I said, it's not so much only the financial part of it. All of us, we need a certain amount of income. I think he definitely takes pleasure and pride in his job, and he likes to be out and like I said, not necessarily staying at home, and coming out and meeting people, and definitely I would encourage other businesses to try to find space. I know it's difficult for most people to add on new staff now, but definitely if they can, try to find space in their organization to take on someone like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really interesting. I just heard a couple of things when you were speaking, Suzette, as well as you, Prentice. Making kind of accommodations or provisions for people with disabilities. We have to do that for people without disabilities.
Correct.
All the time.
Correct.
So, what's the problem? Like you said, you have to do it for other employees also. So it's really about us kind of embracing every single one of us as a part of the human race, and we all fit somewhere.
Yes.
And I also heard, kind of people with disabilities wanting to be considered normal per se, but it is normal to them. That's their life. Their life is that. So it should be normal for us to accept them and also fit them in. When I was in university, I used to actually work at a center. Excuse me. I used to work at a center for people with disabilities, and I had another student that I was reading for. He was blind, and so I used to read, because he had, he needed at that time he had Braille as well, but somebody to just kind of read and help him study and things like that. He made better grades than me, by the way. But what was interesting is I had been reading for him about, and this was many years ago. This might have been 20 years ago. I don't want to, put my age out there. Those who went to school with me know it, but this was over 20 years ago. And I remember this young man, I read for him about 2 weeks, and we started to become friends because we talk a little bit about our life and stuff. And one day, I think it was about maybe 2 or 3 weeks of just being with him, like maybe 3 times a week for hours on end, that he mentioned his son. And I said, "You have a son?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm married." And he was married and he had a son, and he was just telling about his life. And I think he had on his shirt was crushed or something like that. And I asked him, I said, "Charlie," and this was in the States, I said, "Charlie, your shirt's really crushed." He said, "Yeah, my wife refuses to iron for me. She says, I'm not treating you like a baby." And I thought that was so interesting because it opened my eyes to a person with disabilities just being a normal person. Yes. And, his shirt was crushed. He didn't know it, but it didn't. He said, "It's not bothering me." But it was really interesting that he was living a normal life and, like I said, making better grades than me and just being a wonderful person and contributing to society. He had a child, he had a life, he's getting a degree so he can get a better job. And it really was an opportunity in my life as a grown-up at the time and a mother to just open my eyes and say, wow, people are around us. They don't have the same strengths or the same weaknesses even that we all might share, but we're all a part of the human race. So let's make space, right?
Yes, that's important. Make space.
Definitely.
But it's interesting that you said that, he has a family. Many of the disabled persons in our community, they want families too. Yeah. They want to work, not just because they want money, but they want to feel as though they're contributing something. For the ones who live with their families, they want to be able to contribute to the running of their home, to help with family expenses. Yeah. They feel valued that way. So that's an important thing to them. And they want to move out on their own. They want to have their own homes. They want to have their own businesses, just like the rest of us.
Right. Right.
What they need is the opportunity.
Right.
And people who are willing to give that opportunity and give them the chance and embrace them and include them. And that's all they want.
Right.
That's all they want.
They can contribute.
Many of them can accomplish that.
Yeah.
There might be some who can't be placed in competitive work environment.
Right.
So what the center is looking at, and we do that on a small scale, is looking at doing what they call sheltered workshops. So they may not be able to go and work in a company or work at Reflections or any other business for that matter, but we can still do something at the center in-house.
Right.
That gives them some kind of employment opportunity. We can monitor them. In fact, I've heard of instances, not necessarily here, but in other countries, where other clients or other persons with disabilities actually run those workshops.
Right.
So they're capable of so many things. And the majority of them can do some kind of work.
Right. Right.
It's just the opportunity.
Well, that's
and
interesting. That is interesting that you're saying that as well, because I think just the line of work that I've been in, and I'm a trained social worker and a counselor, so that's my line of work, and I've worked with vulnerable individuals my whole adult life. That's what I do. That my older son says, "You'll do that forever, mommy. No matter where you go, you're going to be a social worker," and he's right. What I realize is that there are a lot of people in our society, in our community, that are actually they're disabled, and sometimes we don't even realize it.
That's true.
And so when you were speaking about maybe they're not able to work in certain industries, they might not be able to hold a full-time job, that traditional job.
Right.
There are things that they can do, and there are things that we may need to be creative enough to
course.
find for them to do. So that's another challenge too for our community, the government or whoever, to really kind of put things in place that they can do so they can feel that they are contributing because they want to contribute. And like you were saying, Prentice, how honest this person is.
Yes, very genuine,
Yeah.
very genuine about it. Very, like I said, very direct. In the sense they I want to say, quote unquote, a normal person, normal filters certain things, and a lot of times aren't genuine in what they're saying, or have objectives or motives behind a lot of what they're saying, with strings attached or something like that. But he comes across very honest. He doesn't have that, and it's like I said, it is definitely a pleasure to sit and work and talk with him. And like one of the things that if you're looking like possible things to do is like he's a very talented artist. And crafts like that, if they can't go out necessarily into the community, into a job or office set environment, maybe like crafts and stuff like that. We have a craft market downtown, and the vendors there are always complaining about not having things made in Cayman to sell.
Right.
And this could be an opportunity, possibility, if they could partner with the Sunrise.
Right.
To get them to put together items, and then sell to the tourists, and they do a kind of split like that. Something like that is what I'm looking for in a few months. Hopefully, all goes well with the planning and department. I'm looking to do something in Northside, and I was speaking to one of the social workers about that, about the elderly. And we will create on our patio area for them to come in a few times a week or a few times a month, and do crochet or do whatever crafts that they like, and then possibly of trying to get them resold to the community. Like I said, give them something to do and give them a sense of value. And then the opportunity, obviously, to make some income as well.
And that's great. I mean, and not just because you're here, but I think, Reflections, really, you all do a lot for the community, and we appreciate that. Just from me, to tell you that. I see you in different areas, and you're always kind of jumping in, to be a community-spirited person. And I think that's wonderful. People can take a lesson from that, because we all need to work as a village.
Yes.
We have to work as a village. We're all here, and we reap the benefits. So why not work together? So this is really just something that we need to own for sure. We have a caller on the line, so we'll go to the phones. Good afternoon, caller. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Catherine, and good afternoon to your guest.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I would say I'll back you up on that, Catherine. Reflections does do a lot for the community.
Thank you.
I'm wondering though if your guest can tell me, like in the handicap parking spots at like supermarkets and other places, stores, clothing stores, places like Reflection and stuff like that. Now, I've been seeing people drive up there and park, and they're not handicapped or anything. They jump right out their car and walk in the store. There's nothing wrong with them, because I know a few of them. Now, I'm wondering if it is any law or teeth in the law that the security can enforce that and go and warn the people to remove their cars, or have their cars towed away if they don't want to remove them immediately, because something like that need to be done. A few days ago, I was at a supermarket, and a gentleman drove up in his Ferrari, parked back onto the parking block. So, of course, that means that so the front of the Ferrari can't hook in the parking lot. Jumped out. This is parking in the handicap parking. Jumped out his car and went and do what he had to do in the supermarket and walked right back out. And I'm saying, should I really call you a gentleman should. What to say about people like that? They don't have no heart. They don't have no conscience. And I see people like that. And unfortunately, Cayman do have a lot of people like that, whether they're Caymanians or whether they're foreigners. And foreigners should really know better because they sort of grew up with that.
Right.
That handicap parking means handicap parking. That's the reason why they have to put handicap parking or handicap sign in their cars.
Right.
And I'm wondering if the panel, if it is not some teeth in the law, that they can have that brought up to the LA or something, because something like that need to be done. It really need to be done.
Right.
So I thank you, Catherine, and I thank Susan for taking my call. And all of you have a very good afternoon.
Thank you.
All
you
the best
too.
to you too, yeah.
Thank you so much for that call this afternoon, and rightly so. This is an observation, and this is something that really should not be done.
Right.
So, yeah, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the law is now. I mean, before they had the weed clamping, but they've removed that out of the law. I know there's a blue spot, Neem and Sheem or something like that, where a private group goes around and take
Right.
pictures and posts it on Facebook. I'm not sure if we as a business owner can call and get the car towed away per se, but the security does if we have a security at our location, they do witness it. They do warn the customers to try to move off. Sometimes it's difficult. Like one of the stores, particularly, the handicap is right where we need to offload the big delivery trucks. It's a very small plaza, so it sometimes honestly we're guilty of that ourselves. But if we see someone obviously that's a handicapped person or that has a disabled sign, then obviously we'll get them to move out of the way quickly.
Right.
But once a person is present there and needs to, let's quickly offload and get and move on.
Yeah.
It is a genuine concern and
Yeah.
issue out there that needs to be addressed.
I think so, and personally, I don't think that everyone is putting a whole lot of thought into it. I think that number one, there are some very inconsiderate people that are, who cares, but there are also people I think that haven't thought about it. They haven't really almost like understood the magnitude of what that means. Right. So, I try to remember all the time that I can walk from far distances. I'm blessed to be able to walk from far distances. I'm blessed to not have a handicap that is going to interfere with me getting into a place of business. And so I leave that spot for someone who might have that. But that's something that I'm thinking about. And I think just in defense of everybody, I don't think everybody is just being naturally inconsiderate. I think that we're just not being considerate. We're not actually considering. So that would be something that I think that people could start just being more aware, just kind of thinking about it. What are those spots for? Why are they there? I had one example. I went to a grocery store and someone drove up that had I think a wheelchair at the top, the little thing that's at the top of the van. Mm-hmm. And this person was transporting her family member, and she parked behind the person that was parked in the wheelchair, in the handicap spot, and stayed there. She went into the shop, and the person was out, and they were fussing, and she did not care. I saw her in the store, and she came out like an hour later, and the person was livid. She was like, nope, you shouldn't park there. And I was like, good job, because, don't make the mistake. And she's, well, I only park for a few minutes. She says, nope, that's not the spot you're supposed to park in. And so what am I supposed to do with my family member now? And I thought that was just really, a radical thing, but I understood it. So, sometimes things like that have to be done.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
The disability policy speaks to things like that and limited access and people parking in handicapped parking spaces. The legal subcommittee that's working along with, the development of the policy, etc., that's one of the things they're looking at. So there are a number of laws that they have to be amending. So maybe that's something that is going to be coming up in the traffic law. I don't know. I can't really speak to that. But it has come up. People are aware of it. People are very concerned about it. And certainly we're hoping that with the disability policy and the more that we're talking, the community is talking about persons with disability, it is going to raise people's awareness about those individuals,
Right.
and how we need to make those accommodations, and we need to be respectful, and we need to allow them the space that they should have.
Absolutely. We're going to take a little break, but you'll stay with me for a few more minutes, please. We'll take a little break, but we'll be back with more talk today right after these messages. Has been working for you 4 years? You say?
That's 4 years, definitely.
Okay.
One of our star employees.
Absolutely, yeah. What I wanted to ask you, and we're getting ready to close the show, but I did want you to stay on with me so we could just chat a little bit more about this. I wanted to ask you, Suzette, because I know you from, I think, Physio Days, right?
Yes.
And so moving from that aspect to now working at the Sunrise Adult Training Center is very different, right?
It is.
You know what I want to ask you? What have you learned from the disabled?
What have I learned?
Yes.
Well, back in the days of physio, working at the hospital, you see people after they've been injured, after they've, had various incidents, depending on what it is. And as physios, we were just concerned with, getting their mobility back, getting their strength back. And once we reached those targets, they went out the door.
Right.
And we never really saw them again until something else happened that brought them back in.
Right.
Working with the disabled now, I realize there is life after physio or rehab or anything
Right.
like that. What happens when they get to that point? And we let them go, we discharge them.
Right.
What happens? What's happening with their quality of life? What's happening
Yeah.
with all the other aspects of their life?
Right.
So yes, we have helped them in some ways, but then there's so much more that we never focus on because that's not really as part of our responsibility. But then, how do they function at home? How do they function in the workplace? How do they get on?
Wow.
And certainly working with working with the disabled now has certainly opened my eyes a lot. I mean, it's not that I wasn't aware, because I've been working with Special Olympics as well. So I became even more aware, more acutely aware of the challenges that persons with disabilities can face.
Right.
But it's their quality of life, and wanting to make a change to that and impact that in a real way, and to support them and to encourage them and provide as many opportunities to assist them to journey with them as they are, going through their daily lives. It's a completely different feeling, and it's very rewarding, I must say.
Right.
Very, very rewarding. I found as well that they are such caring individuals. Persons without disabilities will walk past each other, and, if you fall down on the street, chances are somebody's going to walk past you, and that's it.
Right.
Persons with disabilities don't do that. They are so much more sensitive to each other's needs, your emotions, and not just other persons with disabilities, but persons who work with them, their families. They're so attuned to it. And when I'm working, if I'm having a good day or a bad day, I can guarantee that the clients are going to come in and ask, Mrs. Suzette, you okay today? Have you eaten today?
Wow.
They're very, very caring. They're caring towards each other. They're caring towards people in general. They're very caring towards children. They all love children, So it's what happens after, after you see them at the hospital. What happens to them after that?
Right.
How do they succeed in life?
Right.
How do they feel? How do we make them feel? How accepting of them are we? And all of this impacts their quality of life.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. I don't even know if you realized how profound a statement you just made, because it was so profound for me to hear you talk about, working with someone, helping them get back to their life, get back to living, wherein when we're talking about the disabled, that is their life.
That is their life.
So when something happens to you, you can actually appreciate, or if something has happened to you before in your life that you've needed kind of rehabilitation for, and then you've gotten back to living, getting back to walking, getting back to fully functioning. Think about the people who that is their life, and that's what they have to to deal with every
Every day.
single day.
Yes.
And so don't they at least deserve us to understand that that is their life and they have to fit into this world with us
Of course.
somehow.
Somehow.
So really, that was just absolutely, I think just eye-opening. And I hope that the listeners that are tuning in will definitely, take that into consideration when we think about the disabled in our community. And for people like you, Prentice, business owners, to employ them, to give them a chance. Do you have some words you'd like to share?
Yeah, for me, the experience is, like I said, been very pleasurable. Like I said, what in a sense, what did I learn? What I learned that there's a range of disabilities, and that you can work with them on many different levels. I would certainly attest to what you just said, as far as them being very genuine, very humble. Like, just to take, for example, I'm usually, because of so many different business, so many different things going on, I'm a mile a minute running across, and I run into the little young guy. He comes right over and says, and I had to stop and listen to what he had to say, because you have to be very focused on what he's talking, and that allowed me to kind of like say, calm down, take a breath, and stop and pause, and in a sense get a greater appreciation for life. In a sense, appreciate what, like I say, what we have. We are able to walk from further distance. And it's actually healthy for us. Things like that. It puts things into perspective. A lot of times we focus on what happened in the past, what happened in the future, and they're very focused on what's going on today.
Right now.
They definitely pick up. He picks up on my mood. He picks up on what I'm doing, and all the stuff. Everyone that works with him, I say he is one of the more favorite of our employees. Very well liked by the customers, and I would definitely again suggest that any business that can fit him, and someone like the young man that I have, to give them a chance, and it has certainly been a pleasure to work with them. Like I say, we go out of the way, and we try to train in a sense, quote unquote, again, normal staff, and they leave within 1 month, or they leave within a week. And these people, once they get into your organization, like I say, the genuineness and the care, and wanting the business to succeed, and the appreciation for the job that they have, they say, I think they value their job a lot more than most people. And so it's definitely been a eye-opening experience for me. I also have a brother who had a bad car accident in 1999 that severely brain damage, and he never got back to fully functioning. But sometimes I sit and I watch him, and he just walks along, and he just bursts out in the biggest laugh, and I hear, in a sense, at the moment I'm sitting there feeling stressed or thinking about, I should do this, I should do that, and then you just kind of see him laugh, and then you, like you say, you get an appreciation for life, and that is their life, that is their that is their normal, So they're often, I would say, happy. They are genuinely happy in their situation, and they feel good about themselves, and they just want that little extra opportunity to do something.
Right. I think it sounds like we, the normal, have a lot to learn.
A lot to learn, definitely.
Thank you all so much for joining me this afternoon, Ms. Suzette Stewart, over at the Sunrise Adult Training Center, for doing all the great stuff that you do and everything else that you do. Because I saw you during Christmas singing and all kinds of other stuff. And also, Prentice Pannon, thank you so much from Reflections for everything that you all are doing. And, just an appeal to the community to embrace all of us, the disabled included, because we're all just a part of the human race. We'll be back with more talk today, right after these messages.
Radio Cayman, 38 years in the business, providing information to the people of the Cayman Islands.